Hey, Wemberg World Entertainment, and James Gunn and the DCU seems to be bracing itself for what could possibly be another disaster, as China is showing absolutely no interest in the upcoming Supergirl movie, and the film is already missing from key anticipated lists. So they have their list out for movies they're most anticipated for in China for next year. Supergirl is not among them. So it looks like there could be another flop incoming with Supergirl because, of course, the China market does run the budgets up for, or the box office for these things up. Just look at Zootopia 2. In its first weekend, it made over 400 million from China alone. Same thing seems to be happening possibly with Avatar, where the international numbers are way outpacing the domestic numbers, and a lot of that is possibly from China. I'm not sure if it's open in China yet or not, but China always pushes these things to the next level. Supergirl, yeah, they've no interest in. But let's have a look at the article that talks about this, because this isn't good. Now, none of these movies, realistically, none of these movies, whether it's DC movies, Marvel movies, just general Western movies, shouldn't be relying or even having to rely on the Chinese market to, up their numbers. But it's a thing that they kind of have started to rely a little too much on. But it's saying here, new data out of China suggests James Gunn's DCU Supergirl movie has little to no traction with one of the world's most important box office markets. And yes, just because Gunn didn't technically direct Supergirl doesn't mean it isn't his movie. The film is a clear carbon copy of Gunn's one-trick pony Guardians formula. Craig Gillespie wouldn't have landed the job without signing off on Gunn's goofy DCU tone. That's also why, from what I'm told, projects like Swamp Thing and Sergeant Rock never moved forward. So, the Swamp Thing, yeah, it was meant to be coming with James Mangold, fell off. Sergeant Rock, of course, they were looking at Daniel Craig to star in it. He walked away. Then Colin Farrell was rumoured to be in it, and that seems to have completely fallen apart. Them saying technically didn't direct Supergirl is correct as well, because we know that he did show up on set and started to actually direct a few scenes. So, and he is a credited producer on the movie as well. So, yeah. So back to the Middle Kingdom, a newly released list ranked China's most anticipated foreign films of 2026 does not include Supergirl at all. The list is led by Marvel's Avengers Doomsday, which ranks as China's most anticipated foreign movie of the year, which makes sense. The Marvel movies, especially Avenger movies, always do incredibly well in China. So it seems to be Avengers Doomsday is number 1, Dune Part 3 is number 2, The Odyssey is number 3, and then it just goes on. Spider-Man is number 6, Devil Wears Prada 2 is number 8, and stuff like that. There's absolutely no sign of Supergirl or any DC movies, actually, not even Clayface is on there. What's interesting is there is only 2 superhero movies on the list of 10, their top 10 movies, and it's Doomsday and Brand New Day. So the rankings, sourced from Douban, China's largest movie and TV tracking platform, highlight what Chinese audiences are actually excited to see in 2026. Supergirl didn't make the cut. That's a major red flag, especially considering DC's long-standing reliance on overseas markets to offset weak domestic performances. This lines up with what we've been saying via the insiders. Chinese audiences overwhelmingly favour the Snyderverse, not the James Gunn version of DC. Films like Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Justice League and Aquaman performed strongly in China, often outpacing domestic interest. Zack Snyder's darker tone, mythic visuals and serious approach resonated far more overseas than Gunn's lighter, joke-heavy style full of messaging. The warning signs are already here. Foreign audiences didn't show up for Gunn's Superman. Interest outside the US was soft, and now Supergirl appears to be facing the same problem, likely worse. If China isn't interested before marketing even ramps up, it suggests the film has no international momentum. So this is one of the biggest issues they do have. And yeah, when Superman failed to capture the international market, James Gunn came up with the weirdest excuse, which was, oh well, Superman's not as well known as the likes of Batman outside of the US, which has to be one of the dumbest statements I think we've ever heard from a head of a studio, which he is. He's the head of DC, to turn around and say Superman is not as well known as Batman. It's like, are you kidding me, James? Like, that just shows you that he doesn't even understand the pull that his own characters have. Supergirl is definitely not going to do anything close to what Superman did. Now, you have John Campius out there in the world saying the movie is going to make $1 billion. Are you insane? The fact that Superman couldn't even get past 620, and you're sitting there trying to tell us that Supergirl is going to make $1 billion. Why would there be more interest in Supergirl than Superman? Makes no sense. But if James Gunn is sitting there already making the excuse for Superman of, well, the international audience don't know much about Superman, he's not as popular as Batman and he's not as well known, what chance then has Supergirl got? Or what's going to be his excuse for Supergirl? Because if Supergirl comes out and tanks, which in all likelihood it's absolutely going to do, then what's his excuse going to be? Is he going to try and turn around and say the same thing of, oh well, the international audiences don't really know who Supergirl is? How is he going to keep doing that? And if he puts out Brave and the Bold and that flops with Batman in it, what's he going to say then? Is he going to try and say the same thing? Oh well, you know, international audiences, what can we say? They just don't really know who Batman is. It's such a weird cope. But the fact, once again, that they're relying so heavily on the Chinese market, you know, that's bad. That really is bad. And if you remember, for a good few years, they would put a random Asian person in these movies in like somewhat of an important role. Not like DC movies, just general movies, to get on board with the Asian market. Do you remember that? So every movie you watched, all of a sudden, it was just this random Asian person cast in it. You're like, that's a weird choice. And then you realize, oh, it's so they could kind of cater to the Chinese market more, going, look, we have an Asian in it, even though half the Asians they were putting in it weren't even Chinese, which was hilarious because that really did go on the whole thing of they all look alike, which was funny. But they really were doing it so they could get that Chinese market, because the reliance on the Chinese money was ridiculous, and you can see it's still happening here. Avengers Doomsday, the majority of the money that thing makes will probably come from China. I still don't think that thing is going to make $1 billion. I think word of mouth is going to be that it's just an absolute mess, because they shot the movie with no bloody script. Half the actors don't even know who they're in scenes with and all that. It's just going to be a disaster. But Supergirl, the fact that you've already spent over $200 million on the budget, you're probably doing some reshoots. I believe they did already do some reshoots. They've done test screenings which were lukewarm, which means they'll definitely be doing some reshoots, which will increase the budget. The marketing then, whatever they put into that, the thing will probably have to make somewhere in the region of what Superman did. You're looking at upwards of over 600 million to break even, if not higher. I don't think this thing even hits 400 million. Time will tell, but the Chinese market looks like it's off the table for that movie. So what do you guys think? Do you think they should be trying to cater these movies to get the Chinese market? Do you think there is an over-reliance on the Chinese money? And what do you think Supergirl will actually do at the box office? Let me know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, hit the hype button, check out memberships, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.